Before I had recorded this, I thought it'd be useful to watch a video of Hamza specifically to kind of initiate this level of presence. And I'm watching this video, and he made me write down a few goals of mine for next year. We have 1,000 subs, 1,000, we'll just say dollars, made online, read 10 new books, improve physique massively, create successful productivity app, that's an upcoming thing of mine, create the best, most loving relationship, learn to be fluent in Chinese, obtain a recurring income, create the perfect productive system for my day-to-day, and get a good new hairstyle, because you can all see the sloppy mess in my head. And he made me highlight the core 3, which I did. One of them is 1,000 subs. It made me pretty much cross out the rest, so that was fun. And by doing this, it just reminded me of what's important to me, And I was reviewing the video before this one, and that morning I was in quite a good mood, so the energy was a bit higher, and it's one of my better recordings. But as I was going through that video, I was watching myself carefully, and I almost felt like I looked like I was full of myself, which is something that I really don't want to come across as, ever. Then again, I was watching Hamza's video, and he also talked about how it seems to be like toxic, or you seem to be full of yourself if you talk about your goals. So, as I was saying, I was just reminding of myself, and what I found to be important was how I come across, how I influence people. And I don't know if this video is going to be more slow paced or whatever. I know all the Jeffreys are going to want a more fast paced, quick, flashy edits. We're working on improving our editing. But I don't know. This video is about discipline, a very, very, very controversial topic. So I wanted to quickly apologize for any of the background sounds. There's a lot of awake birds in the morning, so if you hear that, please don't stress about it. Let's just get started, shall we? So we're here today to talk about the importance of discipline, and I have a few categorizations written down. And by talking of discipline, there is multiple things that could be mentioned about it. I could go even further in depth and talk for hours and hours and hours. Sadly, I do not have that kind of time right now. So I'm just going to give you the very basics of it. Maybe see if there's something that you never really thought of before. And so let's get into it. First off, we have respect. Now, this comes from both yourself and from others. When it comes to discipline, I think it is it is extraordinarily important to follow through with your word, especially as a man. And the very basis of discipline is acting the way you're supposed to, regardless of how you feel. I've said that a shit ton of times. I know I should write some new material, but by doing so, right, we're not going to be talking about just acting regardless of how you feel. I don't think, because everyone understands at least that much. I want to dive into more complicated, more not necessarily thought of topics before, but anyway. You gain respect from both yourself and from others, and the reason why that's important is, we'll first talk about others. It's quite obvious how important it is to be respected by others. Like, if it's really high quality people or people in your day-to-day space, you're probably going to want to be respected. And being respected is just, it makes your field, your area wherever you are, more comfortable to be in. And I mean, in terms of definition of respect, I recently had a conversation with my best friend about it. And well, it's not something I'd make a video about, but like, I think, or I personally feel that when being respected, like when you are respected, right? To some fundamental level, there is a level of admiration, almost. Like if you looked up the definition of respect, then you'd see, right? Like, it's a bit difficult to explain. This is why we were struggling to have this conversation, is because like you don't necessarily have to admire somebody to respect them, but at the same time there is some level of degree or some degree of admiration, but like not just for the person, but for like their skills or their perceptions or like anything about them. So it's not just them, but anything about them. And I feel like when people are respected and you know that you're respected, you're aware of that minor level of admiration, and simply being respected and being admired. It's not necessarily the most important part about being disciplined, but out of the two, I do believe self-respect to be more important, mainly because that stems to things like self-confidence, your understanding, your perceptions of the very world, of things that you do. If it's bad enough to the point where you tell others that you're going to do these certain things and they don't believe you, and then not even you believe you, that's pretty atrocious. I'm pretty sure all of you should already know that by now. But what I'm trying to share with you here is when it comes to discipline, respect isn't something that you're supposed to be caring about whilst trying to be disciplined, but it's more just like that extra added bonus. And the only reason I'm really bringing it up is because it's quite a pleasant feeling, right? I only experienced it very, very few times. It's this pleasant feeling, being respected by not only others but by yourself. Like, I suppose maybe that has to do with like how do they say it? These like those tribal or primal times back when we were all I don't know, cavemen or shit like that. And I don't know, I suppose it maybe has something correlated to being respected by the tribe, so that you're, shown to be useful, and just being respected keeps you around for longer and you don't get kicked out of the tribe and shit like that. But I might have just complicatedly dragged out something that doesn't actually require all that much explanation. Point of the matter is, right, let's just not get too confused here. It's just a pleasant feeling, and being respected by others is still a very, very big thing, especially if it's by the highest of quality of people. If it's by low quality people, then you may as well just say, like, who cares, yeah. But self-respect, I found like if you found self-respect, there's that extra added bonus of confidence and trust in your own word, and you're probably far more likely to follow through on the things you say, which maybe I should have made a video about that instead, but yeah. Next, we have confidence. Now, when it comes to confidence, it's more or less just simply a mental shift, right? By having the said mental shift, like I said previously, you're pretty much far more likely to follow through with your word. And that is beyond, you know what, side tangent, okay? I need you guys to understand this so that when you hear me repeat it, it doesn't just sound like very vaguely mentioned, or I sound like I'm just spouting nonsense here. For months on end, especially this year and last year, I find that when I say I'm going to do something and I don't do it, especially because of the kind of guy that I am, that I'm striving to be someone important, someone of value and purpose, by not doing it, it doesn't just destroy my self ego, it weakens my words. And And the reason that is so bad is simply the weaker your words, the less trusted they are. The less trusted they are, the less confidence you have. The less confidence you have, the less likely you're going to follow through, right? The less likely you're going to follow through. And I find that, like David Goggins talks about a lot of the time, like not hearing yourself talk. And that's simply getting you to, like, you know, stop yapping your mouth on and get to actually doing the stuff. And that's important for, again, two reasons, right? Number one, taking action is still far more important than talking about taking action. And two, the less time you spend yapping, when you do, you know, yap or talk or whatever, the things you say has far more weight, more gravitas, right? And I just find that if you strive to be a respectful person, a respectable person, to be, you know, a man of purpose, of this self-created image that you're trying to craft for the world to perceive you as, because I know we're all labeled the one day eventually by the world, and I've been reading about that in a certain chapter in my book, in this book, not my book, and it was talking about crafting your image and the way people perceive you. And I think just something that you guys should just keep in mind is your word is very important. And I like to just say this very cheesy sentence, so forgive me for the cringe. I want words of iron. Like, no matter what I say, if I say I'm going to do it, I do it. And I've always, no matter what, I've always found that to be such an admirable quality. Something that I've always wanted. It's super duper difficult. So it's either I should keep quiet a bit more often, or find the willpower to power through it and actually accomplish what I'd said I'd do. And that does almost pretty much tie into discipline, I find, because when you do say you're going to do this thing, it requires discipline to take action and do it. But yeah, the whole basis of this terribly explained story is, I just wanted to make you understand how important it is to follow through with your word, right? Or at least to me, okay? When it comes to confidence, it's this mental shift of like, I have to do 1,000 push-ups today, right? Like, I have to, because I have to be a disciplined person. That mental shift, especially when it comes to confidence, is not more or less I have to, but like, oh, well, how long is it going to take for me to do these 1,000 push-ups now? You know, like, it's not just this mental shift, it's almost this attitude kind of shifting. And I don't know, I feel like maybe confidence is also a bit of a difficult topic to talk about as well. Maybe this was a very terribly planned video, so I apologize, but the very basis of confidence I find is actually, yeah, it is relatively like difficult to talk about, isn't it? Because in our modern world, especially on social media, when you see a man of confidence, right, they're probably like extremely likely to be get insulted and ashamed of and everything of the sort, because when you see a man of confidence and you yourself, or this hater, right, you're probably not acting like, oh, he's a narcissist or he's misogynistic and shit like that. I find that the people who really talk like that are usually the people who are like envious or jealous of their confidence. You know, it's their self-insecurity that is like triggered by that. And you know, there's the massive gap of insecurity and confidence. And I think discipline could be like that dividing line between the two, because all it really takes is just it's action, right? Like, it's simple. It's super duper duper simple. It's difficult, but it's simple. And you're not going to be respected simply by what you say. Like, if you're the kind of person who, like, I'm trying, yeah, but if you're the kind of person who like sits in front of an audience or talks in front of an audience or just amass people and truly speaks his heart and is genuine, like, I know a lot of people are like afraid to like show the public their real opinions, so they just agree with everything. But then you could be respected for that, but you don't become a respected person or a respectable person just by simply talking. And the key part that discipline plays in that is through action. That's how you become a respectable person. Like, if I were to sit here in front of this camera, right, and talk about how to make $10,000 a month, meanwhile I haven't made $10,000 a month, like, like, I'm not gonna be respected. I'm a joke. Like, you can, there's just that certain quality you can tell. Like, why does this video feel cheap, or why does this video feel ingenuine, or the same as every other the past 7 videos that I just went through on how to make 10K a month. And the only reason I'm mentioning discipline now is not only because it's like always mentioned in my videos, but like it's part of who I am. Like, I want to be a disciplined person. I believe that I've become a more disciplined person. I am still speaking through experience, and I wouldn't come here and talk about something that I have no experience with. The only reason I'm currently struggling is because a lot of these topics, like, I continue to find that when I talk about certain things to you guys, there's always this underlying topic that I could be talking about instead, or stuff that I could dive deeper with, And that's what I aim to do with the videos, make them high quality, dive deeper with more research, the quotes, the scientific analogies and studies. I think that'll be absolutely awesome. Yeah. And confidence, essentially, I'm sorry for all the side tangents, I just felt like it was important to mention. It's basically a mental shift, and that's very, very important for your day-to-day confidence. Whilst you do get contradicted and shouted at and ashamed of online, at least in person, your interactions, it adds this level of charisma. And I think men especially should, I think a lot of men already strive for charisma. It's one of the best qualities any human being could possibly have. That's definitely something that I want to. Next, or thirdly, we have autonomy, right? I say creates autonomy, right? Definition of the autonomy is like self-governed, or like singularly controlled by oneself, almost. Maybe it's still describing it very, very terribly, but I say autonomy because when you've truly, like, I'd say mastered discipline. And mastered doesn't necessarily mean like you don't feel the urges to do something else, but you're forcing it's still, required on forceful energy. That's not mastering discipline. It's simply just being able to commit to the action every single time. But very difficult. But when you've mastered discipline, I say it creates this personal autonomy, because you're self-governed. Like, you have this ultimate level of control of yourself, right? Being able to do any action that you know you should be doing, or that you desire, or anything of the sort. Like, if you truly did master discipline, then any habit list, habit tracker, tasks list would be demolished, because you'd just be crossing. And yeah, that's what discipline does. Like, if you've truly mastered the skill, right? Maybe I should make a video on that. Although I should probably first master discipline myself before I, boast on about it. But it creates this self-autonomy, because you have this insane level of control of yourself and over the actions you commit. And I know a big upspring on social media lately, especially with Iman, is obtaining the 3 freedoms, which is time freedom, location freedom, and income freedom. Yeah. And how do you ever expect to accomplish any of those 3 without, this self-autonomy? It's not necessarily self-autonomy, it's just discipline on a very basis, but discipline in a very advanced and extreme form, almost. Let's talk about mental shifting, but of the Stoics. The Stoics were very, very tied into actions of discipline. I know Marcus Aurelius was, so was Epictetus, I think Aristotle as well. All talk famously of discipline. The one was a Roman emperor, the one was just a teacher. He was a teacher? I'm pretty sure he was a teacher. But a reason they were very famous for it was because they had this level of understanding for discipline that cuts deeper than just action, right? For them, discipline cuts into philosophy. It cuts into the very basis of Stoicism. It cuts into meditations and your own personality, right? Discipline cuts into all 4 of those sections. It's this philosophical understanding and way of life. It's this again, like I said, it's the basis of Stoicism. It's part of your personality, because that's who you are. If you're either a disciplined person or you're not, and being a disciplined person is far superior to not. Is it not? Like, getting stuff done that you want in your life is obviously a very good thing. And what kind of life would you live without it? And it's your views, it's your perceptions, your understanding. That's how your life changes through discipline. And I just find that there's this thing about discipline that I've tried to explain it here in this video, but now I'm still struggling. So I'm sorry about this terribly formatted video, but like I said, discipline cuts deeper than just action. It's philosophical, it's connected to Stoicism, it's part of, maybe not meditations, but that's also too complicated for me to explain, but it's also part of your personality. And why not be a disciplined person instead of a non-disciplined person? Because there's only those two. I know everybody has dreams, goals, ambitions. Not everyone is ambitious, but everyone has something that they want to do, even if it's something small. Like, you want to become a blog writer, or just be a person who reads a lot, right? You want that kind of quality about you. Everyone can come up with at least one quality they want about them that they don't have. And if you're not a disciplined person, I don't see how you'd ever accomplish that. And if you truly do want 3 quick tips on how to be more disciplined, just because you watch this video, I'll give you a quick something, or at least from what I've learned. Find a reason to be disciplined, and the reason you find a reason to be disciplined, it gives weight, and I say gravitas just to be funny, but gives more, weight behind the reason why you're being disciplined in the first place. It makes you far more likely to be disciplined in the long run. And when you do accomplish this thing that you want to accomplish, again, it's even more purposeful. So find a reason to be disciplined. Design your area, your life around being disciplined. In a previous video, I talked about reducing the friction of the good habits and increasing the friction of the bad habits. So it's either you can go watch that, or if you already understand that on a fundamental level, then there's that. And the third one, actually, one that I find to be extremely overrated, is write it down. It sounds boring, but I find personally, when I go to put this on my door, right, these goals of mine, every single time I open my door, I'm going to be reminded of these goals. I also put my schedule underneath this paper. I press-sticked it to the desk. Every time I look on my left-hand side, I see all like the schedule I'm supposed to be abiding by, and that's why I never forget what I'm supposed to do. And those are 3 quick tips on how to be more disciplined. It sounds super vague, sounds super boring, but for me at least, that's like the key 3 that come to mind, and it's probably the 3 most important, or at least for me. All right. I hope this video found you well. I'm very, very sorry for this terribly explained. I'm pretty sure the video before this is probably far better, but I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Night, day, whatever. I hope you had learned something. Again, I'm very, very sorry for this terribly explained video. Please let me know down in the comment section. Just let me know, alright? I'm here for you guys. I'm rarely even here for me. And like I've said a bajillion times before already, I'm just trying to supply value to you people, alright? And with that said, instead of leaving you with the regular quote, I'll leave you with this. I am a shell of the man I am supposed to be if I do not fulfill my purpose.